Okay, now we've got 2 or 3 questions relating to independence, all asking a similar point, which including from Kevin and Claire. How do indies stay up to date with the technology, the facial coding, predictive analytics, all of these new things that are coming through? How can we stay up to date with some or all of that? Anybody? Actually, I know that you've got a view, Mark. So.
Yeah, the technology is really interesting. I would say you could adopt an approach which is you've just got to be one chapter ahead of your client. So as long as you've read the latest article in neural mapping and can throw in a couple of bits of jargon, then that's great. As long as you have an awareness of maybe what some of the social media networks are doing in sort of finding their own sort of data stuff, then that's great. I mean, really, it's interesting, but from a client point of view, be aware of it because it's your world. But actually, my world is about business and business decisions and trying to work out what to do. And typically, my own experience is that I would say that the client world, in terms of its acceptance and understanding of methodologies, is about 5 to 10 years behind whatever the market research world is currently obsessing about. So ethnography, which Becky's here now, it's up and running, it's real and it's live, and people are actually commissioning ethnography projects. Yeah? But ethnography's been around for forever, in a way. But people are only now just getting used to it. So clients, I think, are not obsessing about technology in the way that research practitioners obsess about technology. So be aware, but just get down to business.
I would say you cannot hope to be ahead of all of it. It is just impossible. But I think you will seem very old-fashioned if you're on top of some of it. And my advice would be to choose a small number or a small range of things that you do stay on top of. And it might be as simple as, it might be Twitter, it might be Facebook, but have 1 or 2 things that you really do know something about, because I think just having that access into the world keeps you in the world as it is and as it is going to become. And I think you're absolutely right that almost anything you do will be ahead of clients, but as the new generation of clients come through, this is all their bread and butter, it is all that they have ever done, and so they will not find it a problem to be on Instagram and Pinterest and Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter and all the things that I've never even heard of, because they've always been there. So my advice would be to be on top of 1 or 2 reasonably well, but not try and do everything.
Right, now we're going to segue into qual and independence, which will take us to the rest of the panel really nicely. From Alison Browning?
Yep.
Yeah.
Can I have a supplementary on this?
After this one, because this kind of links to it too, and hopefully that will build on it, but if not, just go back. So, what do the panel think are the most important trends impacting qualitative research now and looking ahead a few years that independent researchers need to be aware of? So if we start with you, Janet?
I guess from where I'm sitting, I think all the biggest trend that I think is impacting is all the online communities, bulletin boards, that whole sort of move to doing everything online, which certainly within the ICG we've had webinars, we've had discussions about it, so I think people feel more confident about doing all that sort of thing, and there's plenty of support there. I guess the threat that goes alongside that is if people who are not trained researchers feel that that's something that they themselves is easily to access, if they've got a database and they can get people to populate, that they start running those themselves because it seems to be sort of easy and they can do the analysis. So that to me I think is the sort of biggest development, and I think aren't all the big companies running them now. I've signed up for one or two just to see what it's like to be a participant. So that's quite fun.
And we call them participants as well. Thank you.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest trends is related to the point about speed, and one, I think it's quite worrying, the trend away from proper time for analysis. And I know analysis is always the bane of a researcher's life because you never get paid for the time it takes to do it, and clients don't really value the time or the effort, but they obviously expect it to happen. And I think reportage is obviously another thing that trained researchers always fight against, but I think I'm seeing more and more companies springing up and delivering research, which is essentially repeating back things that people have said in online groups or in autoethnography or that kind of stuff, where there's little, if any, there's some filtering going on perhaps, but very little actual analysis or strategic recommendations going on at all. And I think that's definitely a trend and something to be aware of in terms of the value of the overall perception of the research industry. I think we're more than just collecting quotes.
Yes, Ken.
Yeah, I think that I agree. This is a massive, massive problem. I think we're at a crossroads at the moment. And I think that we can either go down the path of doing things quicker and cheaper and not actually very well, because we're not analysing, we're not interpreting, we don't have time to do that, we're churning stuff out. And that is also being supplemented by DIY stuff that clients are doing. They're doing it themselves, they're going for headline quotes that they can just put back in, and it actually it exemplifies their thought processes and says, well, here's something that I can now use as evidence, that is something that sort of supplements what I was always thinking. They're doing that, and I think this whole area is a problem. On the other hand, we could be sticking to what we're good at. And we have to do this as an industry, in my opinion. We have to actually be very proud of what we do. And we have to be shouting that we are good at the work we do. We need to interpret. There's no point in doing something just to go for sound bites. We need to work out what it is, because otherwise we're going down a path of very, very poor research. Incidentally, the other side of things, which is the online qual, etc. Yes, of course. Personally, I've got a vested interest in there because I've got a company that does it, so the Thinking Shed. So I'm very keen to do that, of course. But having said that, I think the key thing is to remember that while it's one of the flavours of the month at the moment, it's not taking up much of the business. 68% of all research, qualitative research, is groups and depths still. Add to that another 14%, which is telephone depths. You're only left with about 12% at the moment going to online. So let's not forget, what is the core of our business, and let's be damn good at doing it. And let's also take advantage of this great array of techniques that we now have in front of us that we can use, which have actually been expanded over the time, but based on the sort of traditions of groups and depths, co-creation, workshops, etc. And I think that's the trends that we're looking at the moment.
Yeah. And shorter answers.
Oh,
No, that was good, Ken.
that's as short as I do it.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
You may need to pitch up a little bit.
Oh, okay. Let me pitch in this direction. I'm interested about this idea that two things. I'm glad you mentioned how small some of the new techniques are in terms of the global business at the moment, although presumably they will grow at some point, and I think you made reference to that as well. But where I would perhaps draw issue, or take some issue, is when it comes to presenting new things which are coming up, knowing about neuroscience, knowing about BE, whatever it is that you decide to know about. I would argue that as independents, we are so well placed to have strategic alliances with people who really are experts. And I have people at Oxford University, because I happen to be fortunate to live there, but we've got people who we can get hold of. I think it's very dangerous for us to say, oh, let's get our head round this and just be a little bit ahead of the client, because the risk is that you just end up looking like the uninformed fool, or the semi-informed fool. And I certainly don't want to be in that position. I want to hold on to my skills and work with people who have their skills.
Yes, I actually agree with you hugely. All I would say is I think you need to be a translator. I think you need to know enough about it to bring in the right expert and help that expert explain it in the way that the client will understand it. So I'm not advocating be an expert in it, I'm saying know enough about it to have a sensible conversation, but otherwise...
And the benefit is, that as an independent, we can choose who we bring in.
Correct.
So we
And
have
it can
some
be different.
fantastic opportunities.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just so from the client point of view, I'm always wary of sort of methodology-led proposals. And perhaps that would be a modification to my previous answer, which is be expert in some things, but also know when to apply it. Because we as buyers of research got used to and then got sick of black boxes. You know, if there's yet another bloody TNS box that we have to buy that nobody can explain, then well, I mean, honestly, really, please, in an age of transparency, this is not what we need. So I think we've been once bitten on this sort of methodology-led stuff, branded stuff. So I'd say be expert, know your stuff, pick your area, but it is about the buyer wanting to find out an answer that helps their business. And if, and so pick the right methodology for the question, don't lead on it.
So now we're going to move on